Christ Church in Jackson and Truitt Baptist Church in Pearl partnered once again for their second annual Bible Belt Conference at Truitt last month. The theme built on last year's focus on redoing the work of the Bible Belt and confronting cultural Christianity. This year's speakers included Truitt Church pastor Dennis Ellingberg, Christian counselor Omri Miles, evangelist Justin Peters, Grace Community Church elder Carl Hargrove, and the host of the Just Thinking podcast, Darrell Harrison and Virgil Walker. Both days of the conference began with a sermon from Harrison.
Just want to say this is my first time in the state of Mississippi. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here as a student of history myself and a fellow Southerner. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, so I've always had some of an affinity and appreciation for the role that the state of Mississippi has played in forming the history of our nation, from the Civil War through the Civil Rights era, that 120-year period or so. And it's a privilege for me to finally be able to set foot here in such a state as Mississippi that has such a significant role to play in the shaping of our nation.
Harrison's co-host on the podcast, Virgil Walker, closed each day of the conference.
I think when we examine kind of current culture, we have a really candy-coated approach to theology. And the problem with that is whenever we see any kind of oppression or challenge or pushback, we end up calling it persecution. And we really need to look at that word through a lens of what Scripture says about persecution and suffering.
Carl Hargrove attended the conference last year and returned to speak on the last day of the conference.
And I saw some very interesting history about why it's even called the Bible Belt. That term even goes back to about 1927 when it was first coined, referring to a certain region of the states, obviously. So I'm going to introduce the message with looking at that and asking how can it really become or live up to its name, that it's truly the Bible Belt. And that can only happen as we understand the sufficiency of Scripture.
Justin Peters, a Mississippi native that spoke last year, spoke virtually on both days, but was unable to attend as originally announced due to travel conflicts. Next year's conference was announced for April, with Harrison, Hargrove, and Peters returning in person. At Truitt Church, I'm Elijah Mangum, Mangum News.